Welcome back everyone to the Beginner's Guide of Factorio, episode number 2. In the previous episode we set up these burner mining drills and the accompanying stone furnaces to have like a semi-automated production of first iron ore to iron plate, which is what we use. We set up this loop of coal so that we have a coal supply for the burner mining drills as well as the stone furnaces. And then once we were able to accrue enough iron plate and copper plate, we were able to set up this nice little automated power center. Just to remind you, that's 14 boilers to 10 steam engines. And now, in this episode, we're going to start to try to get the whole smelting process automated. And one thing you're going to notice about this is that we're going to be doing modular things. And I'm just using that, I don't know, it's a jargon, it's just terminology. What I really mean is we're going to set up like blueprints, block blueprints, that it doesn't matter where the input comes from. So for example, right now, this stone furnace is obviously very closely tied to this burner mining drill. They're a linked pair. What I plan on doing is having the extraction of iron ore separate from the furnace or smelting process. And we do that, it's I think a good method, or good methodology, is that okay to say? Probably, yeah. It's a good habit, I would say, because at some point we're going to run out of iron ore here, and if we had to move our whole smelting process somewhere else because we burn up this iron, so we have to move our whole smelting process over here, it would be a lot of work. So with the ability to use trains, or if you were really kind of in a desperate state, you could just use extremely long lines of conveyor belt. We want to set up a smelting zone where it doesn't matter where our iron ore is coming from. And that's what I mean about modular design. So if you've ever heard of like modular programming, you're supposed to set up programming segments that are independent from each other. So we're going to set up a smelting thing which is independent of the source of iron ore. Okay, so that said, what do we need for that? Well, we already kind of showed what the electric mining drills are going to do, and we're going to set up this electric mining production here. If I can reference the right panel on the right, very good. You'll see on the bottom there it says expected resources 13K, blue is the iron, and that gray-brown is the stone. That we don't want to stone, so we're going to set this over here so that it doesn't get any stone, just iron. Because the electric mining drill does not discriminate, and we don't want iron going over and ruining a whole process. So what I like to do with this is set up 1 in the beginning, and then groups of 2 until we're finished, and then end with another 1. And I'll show you why, and I'm just going to make this symmetric because although it doesn't have to be, as we'll see in a second, I think it makes sense just to evenly load the lines. It's probably not necessary, but I think it's a good rule of thumb. I also want to set this up in a more intelligent way. Do something like this. I'd like to, if I middle click, the slight blue background means those are locked, which means that even if I take out all the transport belt here, nothing else can go in that slot. 1 will only ever be for a transport belt. So 3 for my thing. What you can see is the range of one of these telephone poles. It goes a radius of 2, or I shouldn't say a radius because it's not a circle, it's a block. So it's a 5x5 block of power covered where the center block is around the power pole. So it's a 2 to every side of the power pole. And the length that this can travel before breaking, as you can see, at some point it breaks. So that it can only go so far before it snaps. The length of that is 7. So if I'm not making any turns, if I'm going just in one direction, it's 7. And these have a width of 3. So if we go 2 next to each other is exactly 7 distance apart for our power line. So it's kind of an optimal usage of our power poles. Like I said, we don't need to make it symmetric on the other side because this, with its distance travel of 2 and the horizontal, actually gets over to the other side, even if it's on one side of the set of mining drills, it'll reach the other. The last thing we need is conveyor belts, and this has an input, this module I would say has an input of power and an output of iron ore on a transport belt. Let's now link this to our power supply. And it's fine if we put it here. If I was to go up here, we're going to see the iron ore will now be saturating this line very quickly. And let's get some more here. Just dump that. Can this not go in there? It cannot. Okay, we'll just keep that iron ore with us for a while. Alright, so we have our iron extraction complete. What's the next thing we want to do is we need coal. As we know, these furnaces require not just the resource we want processed, but some kind of fuel to burn in order to, do the transformation. Now the coal also burns a lot slower. So you can see that one iron ore is processed very quickly compared to how much coal is being burned, which makes sense. So you don't need that much coal compared to how much iron you want processed. In order to get the coal, we could just split off this line. And I think I want to do that, but in order to do splitters, I need to do the research for them. So as you can see up here, it says press T to start a new research. We haven't done any research yet. The reason why it hasn't asked us to start research is because we haven't even built a lab yet. Now let's go ahead and build a lab. I should mention that off camera, yes, I did clear all the trees down here. I find it very soothing to just go and cut down trees in Factorio. It's a very satisfying gameplay mechanic. Soothing, the sound of it. So I cleared all these trees, and I also did set us up with a lot of transport belt with some inserters and a lot of resources so that I wouldn't have to pause too long for resource construction or whatever in this video. So with our lab done, I actually want another one, but as soon as we put this down, it'll ask us about research. So let's put this here, why not? Let's get although I do normally recommend automation first, if you are already to the point where I am, that you want the splitter, because we want this splitter to do a specific setup for our smelting center. So I'm actually going to jump to logistics first. We'll research this. What you probably noticed there is that it's going to require 20 of these red science packs. And I happen to get 10 already, so I'm just going to dump. But we are going to need another 10 to complete that research. While this is going, I also want to point out another thing I like to do. Right now we have coal building up in this, so I'm actually done using coal in this manner. I no longer need a supply of coal like this because I can always just extract from this line. Now what we see is over here, all these inserters are pulling from the top of the line. So I'm down here going to get something to pull from the bottom of the line, and I'm just going to have this chest store some spare coal for me. So we'll just get that to happen. Eventually I do want to split this though, because I want some of it to run up here. Now, we may need more coal eventually. Like right now our power usage is so low that we're not even burning. These engines are hardly active. So let's just kind of set up what the future of this area might look like, which is going to be in the normal 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 1 fashion. I'm just going to do a 1, 2, 1 right now because, again, coal is just used so much less than either iron ore or copper ore that we don't need much of it. But we'll set this up so that it does grab another 4 are active, which is good. And it's waiting for our remaining science packs. Again, right-click means to divide the existing stack by 2, and if you right-click on the items on the right to actually construct them, that constructs them in groups of 5. So if I right-click, it's another 5, right-click, another 5. So that means logistics will be done in a second. We've got that set up. Let's start removing these. And I'm going to do that by looping this one back like this, and then I want to take the coal out of here. In fact, we might as well dump it over here. I don't need some of this coal, so let's just have it stack like here, and we'll put a few more stacks in. So I don't need to carry around much coal. Maybe we'll go grab the copper. And you can see that this first one is now out of power, which is good. I'm just going to pick it up. We no longer need this coal center. I'm just going to leave these two as a just-in-case measure, but they're definitely not necessary. just about to finish logistics. I guess while I'm waiting for logistics, I can set up everything but the splitter. So we're going to split right here, which means right here, I want this to go up. I'm going to have it go over here. And where do we want it? Let's bring this down first. How I envision this is one smelting center here. Okay, it's done. Get automation as well. And we'll set up the 10 science packs we need to finish that. So I want one smelting center right here, and I'm going to have another smelting center in parallel right here, which is going to have another line of electric mining drills will produce the necessary ore for that smelting zone. So let's bring this down. I want a distance of 3 in between these, like this. So this is perfect. And where do we want this? Well, first of all, we're going to need a lot of stone furnaces. I like to set this up. It's very common to set it up with 10 on each side. And you don't know what the blueprint is I'm talking about yet, but shift left click does everything you can. So this will do all 24. But I only want 20, so I'm going to left click 4 times. 2, 3, 4. And that'll get us a total of 20. Good, so automation is done, the most important thing this gives us is the assembling machines. And most of the automation we'll be doing later is going to be based on these assembly machines. For now, what's the next thing we want to do? It's probably not a bad time to do military. I like to do steel processing as soon as possible so I can get the steel axes. These cut down trees much faster, which is quite good. But let's just get military because it's rather cheap. Of course, I don't have any automatic production right now of science packs, which is kind of annoying. But now we have our 20 furnaces, so we can get this set up. Let's do it something like this. Maybe 1, 1, 2. Again, the same thing. So I'm going to do power poles in between all these alternating ones. Then we need one more. And 1. Good. So now what I want eventually is an input line on the bottom and an output line above it. And we're out of, look at that. Did not take long for us to run out of transport belt, did it? Okay, forget about the science packs. We have more important things. I can just use shift click if I want. Okay, I know it's 1 empty space for the inserters. Then the actual stone furnaces are 2 by 2. So 1, 1, 2, 1 is all I need. So I could just start building them here. That's where I'll put it. So shift click is to build blueprints, which means it just puts the pattern on the ground, but nothing's actually built. Okay, so that's that. I also want the other furnaces on the top. Symmetric pattern. Good. And let's finish this off. Get that like this. So this is eventually going to run over here. And we'll do it like this. We'll probably need a lot more transport belts. Let me get that going on while we're doing other stuff. Okay, so this is what it looks like here. But no, this is not what it's supposed to be. This is not going to be connected. We don't want coal just freely running up here. So at this point, we're going to want our splitters, which means I'm going to cancel some of this stuff so we can get our splitters. And it looks like I've already ran out of circuit, so we need some more splitters. Good, we're getting them. And this does exactly what it sounds like. It just splits a line both ways. So now we have coal running up this way. And there should be actually totally sufficient coal, even from just 8, to power all of our power needs and at least 1 smelting center. But this blueprint right here is already the blueprint for our stone furnaces. The trick is from here, what do we do with this? And what I want to do is combine it with the iron ore coming in. Let's do it like this. Maybe that was one too early. Yeah, like this. So let's just rotate this one. Okay, it's going this way. And we want 2 more splitters. One like this and one like this. And that's what this is going to do is put half of the iron ore is going to go onto this side, which we just take up here, like so. And do we want the coal to... At this point, just as you'd imagine, this is the same problem they have on the 2D integrated circuits, ICs. What is it called? the PCB board, just in modern computers when we are running circuits everywhere, we need to cross these wires. So we're going to have one of these go underneath the other. It doesn't matter if you send this one underneath or this one underneath. There's, at least at this point, there's no real advantage. But actually, this one has to split as well because I want this coal to go a little bit further. So let's split it right here. And I think this one will go underground for fun. Pop out over here, which means that this one can go on top. And there we go. And what you see we've done here is get half of the transport belt is carrying one resource and half of it is carrying a different one. What this allows us to do is use only a single inserter to supply both goods. Typically, the way to do this before this method became so popular was you would have a red inserter, but you'd also have, a yellow, this normal yellow, orange, whatever inserter, but you'd also have a long-handed inserter, these red ones, which as you can see reach from 2 away. So if you were looking at this, this would pull from a belt which was over here. So you'd bring in the iron ore and then the coal. However, it's just a little bit more efficient to do it with just one inserter. So that is what we'll be doing. And I see that we're also running low on inserters. So let me get a whole bunch of those being made in the background. Okay, good. That's our coal, our iron coming in. And yeah, we need to split this the other way as well. So since we already made the tradition of having the coal run underground, we'll do that once again. And I think, yeah, this is perfect. And this line down like this and over here. Good, so we're almost done. In fact, if we just got power here, these top ones would start functioning. So let's do that. I like to put it here as a reminder not to put anything in that top splitter, because it can be confusing. So now we just grab like so, and everything's done. Perfect. In fact, I usually like my power lines to be lower on both sides. I think it looks a little nicer. Just aesthetics, nothing, there's no reason why you would choose that, otherwise, so. I don't know why, what is this, like what's going on with this one? There it is. It's weird why these guys are not connecting directly. Huh, oh well, I can't do anything about it. So now these guys are already built-in, and this is exactly what we're going to copy and paste multiple times to have multiple smelting centers. Let's see, what else? Yeah, actually the same idea is going to be even with our copper. So without setting up the whole thing, we can just imagine setting up, let's see, like something like this, 1, 2. It looks like we'll just do a 1, 2, 1 here. So it'll just have 8 up, and I ran out, but I can just make more by, I can just show you by shift clicking to make the blueprint. Okay, we need more of these. You need more of everything. Always more. And ultimately we'll get to a point where we don't have to sit here and make stuff in our own inventory. This is kind of considered like a lot of people do challenges where they make the bare minimum they can in their inventory and they automate everything, which is, I think, kind of like an idealistic goal, is to eventually have everything done in automation centers, which we already got. Remember, we have these assembling machines, which is how we're going to do stuff in an automated fashion. Just the same way this is all now automated. And then this belt that we have as an output is going to be part of the main bus I referred to at some point. So without knowing where our main bus is going to be exactly, let me just put it up here and like so. So eventually this is somewhat where our main belt is. And with the shift blueprint, this will be on where a second iron smelting comes out and funnels here. Maybe eventually we have some copper coming up from here, and that'll be 2 lines down here, and we'll have 2 transport belts running with full of iron plate, 2 running full of copper plate, and this is, as I mentioned, what's known as the main bus. Basically, that's just jargon to mean we're going to transport the raw materials we need to build everything else along a center line. And from the center line, the same way we split over here and over there, we can at any point just split off some amount of transport belt of iron. So the iron plate will go up here, and then let's have another module up here. Let's say this module would build just ammunition or weapons. So you can go up here and build weapons or ammunition, whatever you want. And the rest of the iron will continue down this line, and maybe over here we have our automated research. Maybe over here we're going to do stuff with plastics or cement or some kind of oil. Who knows? But the idea is just to establish this main bus, and in order to get the main bus, we have to establish a centralized smelting area. You don't have to, but it's highly recommended. And we're almost there. All we need is really just an output for this. Let's get a few more inserters while our person's not making anything. So what we need is these now need to be output. They will only be output on the bottom side of the belt. And now we need to, whoops, get the stuff inserted on this side. Okay, there's our inserters, and now we want our inserters also to take it away. And that should saturate our belt. So you can see this is good. By the time it's getting backed up now because there's no room to flow, but if I just hold F to hoover or vacuum this up, we can see that even when it's flowing, it's basically a perfect line of goods. Like these three, even though it's flowing, are still waiting for a place to put it. And I think that might be a failure with the system. Did I make it too long? Do we only need 8? There's some optimal number of stone furnaces that you should put in a line. I thought it was 10, but it looks like these guys are waiting too long to actually drop their load. So, but otherwise we have good, I don't know, it looks like we have good output. Anyways, what I'm going to do off camera, because this is more or less what I wanted to cover in this one, just establishing the main smelting centers, and then we'll get the main bus going more on the next episode, and then we can start doing automated research, which is probably the next thing we want done. What I'll do off camera is just copy and paste this up here, so I'll get another line of iron, electric mining drills for iron ore here. I'll do the same thing for at least one smelting zone of copper over here, and we'll have a main bus with at least 2 iron, 1 copper. In the same way, like, because off camera I already cleared all these trees. You probably noticed there's greater visibility down here, so I cut down those trees, as well as adding a bunch of resources for myself, which we've actually all gone through by the time this episode, throughout this episode. So, and I'll stack us up with some more raw resources, so I'm ready to go with the next part of the beginner's guide, and I imagine that will cover automated research, which once that's set up, you're really in good shape. So that'll call this video to a close. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you back for episode 3. Until then, take care.